Good afternoon, Ms. Vukeya.
Good afternoon, Chief Justice. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you, ma'am?
I'm trying. I'll be okay.
Thank you. Thank you. We're running late, so we're sorry. We should have been here around 3 o'clock.
Excuse me?
I'm saying we're sorry that we've detained you, we've kept you waiting. You should have been here around 3 o'clock according to our schedule.
Oh, it's okay, Chief Justice. There's no problem.
Yes. You have worked as a prosecutor and as a district court magistrate and now as regional court magistrate. And if I add up your service as a judicial officer, it comes to about 18 years, am I right?
You're correct, Chief Justice.
And you have acted as a judge.
I have. Thank you.
For how long would you say your acting things put together amount to? How long would you say it is?
If I include this term, of which I've acted for 2 weeks in this term, it amounts to 42 weeks, if I'm not
And
mistaken.
I take it, okay, all right. I take it you would say all this have prepared you for the position you're now applying for.
Very much so, Chief Justice.
Oh, okay, all right. Colleagues, let me have the names of those who are going to put questions to the candidate.
Maya.
Nyambi, Lamola,
Schlemmer.
Mlambo.
JP, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Acting Judge Vukeya,
Yes, JP.
you must be at ease. The fact that you are the last candidate to be interviewed has got nothing to do with your ability. If you have to blame it, you must blame it on your surname because it starts with VU. So everything is being done alphabetically.
I suppose I have to blame my father.
And by the way, you come from Mdenjini, Babaton, am I right?
I come from Mjindini in Barberton.
And the gentleman on my left is almost like your neighbor.
He's my neighbor, yes, of course.
And that neighborhood has got nothing to do with what is going to be the outcome of this interview. Can we agree on that?
I hope not, because I would like to get this on merit.
Ah, okay. Okay. As you have indicated to the Chief Justice, you have been in the justice system. If we were to start from the time when you were a prosecutor, district court magistrate, and so forth up to date, you would have been in the justice system for how long?
22 years. No, not, I'm sorry, JP, 20 years. Because the other time I served my articles. Yeah, it should be a total of 23 years, including my articles.
And I want to imagine that if you were to be appointed, you would prefer to be based in Mbombela, which is closer to your home town, am I right?
Yes, Mbombela would be preferable. Middelburg is also preferable because I work there and I bought a house there and I'm stationed there. I work better there than in elsewhere.
Okay. Now, we all know that the regional court magistrate are almost expert in criminal matters. But if you were to be appointed, you are not just only going to be dealing with criminal matters. You also have to do civil work, that is civil trial, opposed and opposed in appeal matters.
Yes, JP.
Did you have the opportunity during your acting stint to do civil trials?
Yes, JP. Most of the time I've acted in the High Court, I've done civil work. Though I work mainly with criminal matters in the regional court, in the High Court I've dealt mostly with civil work. There are only 1 or 2 times when I've done criminal work.
As a judicial officer, starting from being in the district court and regional court, how did that sharpen you up in terms of judgment writing, irrespective of whether it's criminal or not? How did that help?
I started at an early age to try and make sure, even if it was a small shoplifting case, I tried to write my judgments because I was actually preparing myself for something big one day. And when I went to the regional court, they took us on an aspirant course where we were actually trained how to write judgments. I think I learned a lot there, and that prepared me for the job that I have applied for today, the reason why I'm here today. Working on the bench in the district court and the regional court has actually done a great deal of assistance to me because I cannot say that I write the best judgments, but I at least try, with the little knowledge that I have, I try my best to make sure that my judgments are good and well reasoned.
And by the way, some of those who have appeared before you, and these people, they keep on talking about us. They know us better than we know ourselves. They have indicated that they like the way you preside over the matters, engaging the parties and so forth. Where did that kind of expertise come from?
I think I started sharpening my judgments after the first acting stint that I got from the High Court. I also do a lot of reading and I do a lot of research. And before I give a judgment, I give myself time to reason it because that's how I was advised by some of the senior judges when I acted in Pretoria. Don't give your judgment hastily, even if it means standing it down for an hour or 2. Just stand it down so that you can reason it well, even if it's a small postponement. Stand it down, think about what you're going to say in your judgment, write it down so that you can say it properly. I got a very good training, even from the judges that I work with in Mpumalanga.
I'm also told that from time to time, when you have a matter and you do have some difficulties how to deal with the matter, you always phone some few colleagues and for some sort of an advice. I would imagine that does not make you to move away from the fact that you assist with the matter. Ultimately, you're the one who is going to write the judgment. Am I right?
No, not necessarily. You are right, actually, Judge President. It helps, before you do something, you cannot know it all. Of course, there are certain things that you know that you can do out of your head, but there are certain things that you actually need a second opinion from someone who already knows. So that's what I always do. Even if I know what to do, I just get assurance from someone, most of the time, just to make sure that I'm in the right path.
And just before I forget, and you know that I always blame it on the numbers in my life, but speaking about judicial training, did you attend one quite very recently conducted by the JSC? Not the JSC, but SAJE?
Yes, Sajay, you mean one for aspirant judges?
Yes.
No, I have never attended one for, it has never been easy. It has never been possible for me because most of the time I get the invitation to attend and you find I have to make arrangements to be there and it's already late to make such arrangements. I have a court role to do. Or to deal with, it's always very difficult for me, though I have always wanted and wished I could attend such courses.
In the pack that you submitted to this commission, you included both civil court judgments and the criminal court judgments. Now, how many of the civil judgments would you say you have written?
It could be more than 30, around there, JP.
And how many of those judgments, more or less, were taken on appeal?
I know only one. Of course, there are recent ones that have been taken on appeal when I acted in Mbombela. I do not know the outcome of those ones. I should still check. But there's one that went to the SCA and it was dismissed. You know, it was dismissed.
It means oh yeah. So your judgment was upheld.
My judgment was upheld. The appeal was dismissed.
I take it is not the one other appeal that I draw your attention to almost like 4 or 5 years ago.
It's
when
that one.
When you were
It's that
acting
one.
in Gauteng.
It is that one, JP.
Okay. Now, do you think, in the light of the experience that you have shared with the commission, you are ready to hit the ground running on permanent basis?
I'm ready, JP. I'm very ready.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Judge President. Honorable Premier.
Thank you very much, CJ, and good afternoon, Ms. Vukeya.
Good afternoon, Premier.
Just one question from my side. Do you have any reserve judgments? If so, for how long have they been outstanding?
I do not have reserved judgments currently.
Thank you very much. Thanks, CJ.
Let me correct myself.
Okay.
This week or last week, I picked up about 2 or 3. I think I have 3 that I picked up from last week.
Now, for how long have they been outstanding?
Just
for
1
a
week.
week? Oh,
Just
okay,
1
that's
week.
fine.
Yes.
No, that's fine. Thanks. Thanks, CJ.
Thank you, Premier. President Maya.
Thank you, CJ. Good evening, Judge Vukeya.
Good evening.
Acting Judge Vukeya.
Good evening.
The professions have submitted conflicting reviews of your judgment writing skills. The Society of Advocates sings your praises. They say your judgments are well structured, well researched, and are competently written. And they further describe you as an elegant and fluent writer with a good command of the language. On the other hand, the Law Society has objected to your candidacy, and they say, well, they complain that despite your long acting stint, you have not a single reported judgment. And then they say your judgments are not easy to follow, issues are not summarized, and salient facts are not extracted, whatever that means. Can you just help me, untie this knot? Which version shall we take to the headman? Are you a good judgment writer or not?
I think I'm a good judgment writer, President. It depends on which judgment you are reading. The issues are not always the same. Some of the issues are complex in certain instances. And you find that you write whatever you write, you ask for a second opinion, and the person who gives you the opinion says it's all right. But we see things differently, and as jurists, we always differ with our how we see things and how we interpret certain things. So I do not know whether to say it is a fair comment or an unfair comment, especially the second comment. because it might be that it was a complex issue and maybe they read one judgment. I'm not so certain. I can only say that I believe that I do my best. I give myself time to focus on the judgment. As I've said earlier, I give myself time, and I do my best. I put in a lot of time. If it means working through the night, I do it. It could be that maybe the judgment they read, I was still a novice in the High Court. I wouldn't know. But what I know is that I try to perfect my work. That's as much as I can say.
Well, from those you've made available to us, I have no complaint. I think you can write and write well. Lastly, a Mr. Johan Leroux has filed a really long complaint against various judges in Mpumalanga, and I think others are in other divisions. But, you are included in the lot. And he alleges that between 2017 and 2018, you adjudicated a summary judgment application in which he was a respondent. He does not state the name, but the case number he gives. And he accuses you, firstly, well, he says the applicant filed, he was allowed to file further papers which were not served on him. And then his answering affidavit was not placed in the court file. And despite his best efforts to bring that to your attention, you went ahead and decided the matter without taking his answering affidavit into account, and he accuses you of bias, among other things, in the way you handled the matter. As I say, all we know is that the respondent was a Johan Leroux. The case number was 432 of 2017. If that means anything to you. Do you recall such a case, and what explanation do you have for failing to give him? I mean, the essence of his complaint is that he was given Audi.
I remember this case very well. I had just finished my court role in Brighton, where I was doing criminal work, and I phoned the JP. I asked the JP, what can I help with? And the JP referred me to Nelspruit to do unopposed matters. And amongst those unopposed matters were like actually the files. I think those files were like 20 or so of a summary judgment, and this gentleman was unrepresented. I proceeded and I had the matter and I explained to him what he could do. He insisted that he would like to represent himself. Obviously, with unrepresented people, you find that they want most of the time you to sympathize. Of course, you do sympathize with them, but you cannot always disregard the rules and disregard the law just to favor them. I'm of the view that Mr. Leroux only wanted me to favor him when I made the decision and decided against him. I gave that judgment a lot of reasoning. I unfortunately do not have it here with me. I couldn't file it because I didn't know that it was going to come up as an issue in this interview. But I did my best to try and protect his rights. He was just adamant that he's right, and I found against him, and he was upset.
Thank you very much. Thank you, CJ.
CJ, with
Thank you,
your
President.
CJ, with your permission, with your permission, CJ. Judge Vukeya, the member of the public that you have spoken about, I can assure you that any judgment that goes against him, you can be rest assured that the following day or a week thereafter, you will receive a complaint being lodged against you.
JP, I mentioned that in my judgment. I also mentioned that he takes up other judgments that were given against him by other judges. And he brought that up in the summary judgment application, and I had to deal with it in my judgment, and I dealt with it, and I explained in that judgment that that is his way of doing things. If you decide against him, he brings it up and he makes you the enemy.
Honorable Nyambi. Thank you, sir.
Sorry, follow up, TJ, Chief Justice.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Barnard.
Thank you. Good evening, Judge. Just if I can take you, perhaps, the criticisms on judgment and so on, it's also, it's a large organization and different members provide different input. I look at the judgments, and if one looks at, for example, at page 180, 129 in the bundle, which is a judgment state versus Moslasho, it's just a matter of if one has to quote from that. That's really the only thing that I can see, just quickly refreshing my memory after reading these things. If one were to go and quote from this judgment to, for example, a higher court, there's no paragraph referencing indicated in here and so on. But then again, any number of other judgments, which are paragraphs, which you have other colleague judges with you, that is so really, I wouldn't make too much about that. But maybe if you want to comment on that one, the one judgment in the Middelburg court on page 129.
The Moslasho judgment.
Yes, please.
Right, or the manner in which it was written and structured.
Yes.
That's what I should comment on. All right, this judgment is not something that I wrote so that it can be published or something. It is my judgment that I handed down in the regional court. I actually prepared it so that I can read it into the record, instead of just writing it out of my head. I was just preparing it's actually what I put on record as the reasons for finding against the accused. I don't know if that explains it better, because sometimes you go and you give your judgment without thinking what you are saying. So sometimes it's better to prepare your judgment so that whatever you say, how you evaluate the evidence, and how you come to the conclusion that the person is guilty or innocent, you should have something structured in a judgment. That is why it is written in that fashion. It was not for publication.
Thank you very much. That's fine. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnard. Honorable Nyambi.
Thank you, CJ. Evening, Ms. Vukeya.
Good evening, Commissioner.
I can see the 23 years as a legal practitioner. You worked as a prosecutor, as a magistrate for 17 years. You have acted as a judge. Anything that is very significant that stand out that you share with us that contributed positively, that made you to keep you strong to date as a woman in that rural province?
I've worked with our profession is predominantly, or rather is male dominated. In a normal court, you will find more than 5 men standing up and presenting stuff to you. Some are intimidating because of their seniority. When you are a magistrate, you're still young. They try to pull this and that. I pride myself in the fact that I have been able to stand up against such things, and I'm able to see if someone is trying to intimidate me, and I stand on my 2 feet and I say, this is not happening in my court, especially if one is threatening witnesses and intimidating them, or in the process trying to intimidate me to decide in their favor. I am always able, and I pride myself with that, to stand up and say, not here. It's not just men who do that. I'm sorry if I came forward as putting men to be like that, but also some women, it depends on their seniority. They want to come and they think that they can take advantage of you because sometimes they think you are learning when you are actually, you have actually been there for some time.
My last question, as you have acted in this division of the place of the rising sun, if you can share with us 3 attributes of a good judge, focus on those that you think you possess that will assist you to make sure that you are efficient, effective, and that division is operating at optimal level.
I come with a lot of integrity. I respect people, whether a person who appears before me is a learner or whether that person has been there for some time. I present myself well, and I try to make sure that people feel comfortable in my court. So I'm starting with integrity, and I can also mention the fact that one has to commit himself. If you are a judge, you have to commit yourself to what you have decided to do. You know, you put in extra hours when you do your work. You read a lot. You know, we need judges that can actually be committed to their work. We have judges who are like that, but we as people who are coming in for the first time, we should bring that with us. We shouldn't just come there as people who, you know, I'm new here and I'm still, you know, I'm trying to learn. No, you come back with those attributes and you present yourself as a person who's committed to what you're about to do. The other thing is that we, as a judge, one should conduct himself in a way that will show respect to the people that you work with. You don't have to be rude to people, even if you do not agree with them. You have to do it even if you speak to the accused. I'm just going to talk about an accused because that's what I do every day, like criminal work. You speak to the accused, and if you give him his sentence, he must not feel the hostility coming from you. He should understand why he is being sentenced, and he should understand why he's going away for some time. But it shouldn't be hostile. That's what I'm trying to say. We need, I mean, a judge needs to be like that. You don't have to just go there and harass people. I'm totally against.
Thank you, Ms. Vukeya. Thank you, CJ.
I think.
Thank you, Honorable Nyambi. Honorable Minister.
Sanibonani Mambuye.
Sawubona baba.
Yebo.
I will
Thank you,
continue in
CJ.
Zulu, Minister.
No, you can if you want to. For the benefit of the house, you can. What I want to ask is, I see you have acted a lot. You also did your work at the district court.
Yes, sir.
Did that include the civil cases? And if so, for how long?
Okay, I had the head of office, Mr. Okay, it doesn't matter anymore. I forgot his name, Melder. Now, Mr. Melder always preferred to do the civil work and let me do the criminal work. But then I used to struggle when he wasn't there, you know, because I had to fit in and try and, you know, people give you files, you don't even know what to do at the time, you're not sure. And then I went to him and I approached him and I said, can you give me an opportunity? Let's exchange, you know, alternate. This week you do the civil, I do the civil. That's how I got into how things work in the civil court. So I may have done that for some time, maybe a year. And when he retired, I became the head of office. And that became also my work, my job. I mentored the magistrate who was with me in that office, and we continued to alternate for at least 3-4 years. When I was the head of office, I did it that way. So I can estimate at least 3 years in the district court that I did civil work.
I also hear that also that you also, as you act, also work in the Middelburg as a court. And I hear that there's a lot of mining and environmental matters in that court. What do you think could be the role that the judicial play to also ensure that the objects of the MPRDA in terms of economic benefits reaches the communities in the surrounding areas or those that are affected by mining in the area?
I'm not sure if I understand the question properly. May you please repeat it?
Maybe to put it differently, one of the objects of the MPRDA is that the economic benefits of mining should trickle down to communities in terms of the socio or environmental plans and so forth.
Right.
So what do you think could be the role that as matters come before you that are related to those aspects, the judicial could help so that the community really feel the benefits of the mining in the surrounding communities?
Right. I'm going to try and answer this the best way I can. In our judgments, we should always try and protect the communities. Not that we should be biased in favor of the communities, but if there are issues like the community should benefit from the mining community, we should actually impress on that in our judgments and be fair to the communities instead of favoring the mines that are actually taking a lot. If the case favors them, then we have to favor them. If the case favors the community, we have to ensure that our judgments are clear as to what the benefits of the community should be.
Ngiyabonga, Ma'am Vukeya. Thank you, CJ.
Ngiyabonga nami.
Thank you, Minister. Prof.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
You mentioned quite a number of times that you have little knowledge and that you speak to colleagues to get their points of view. How well is the court equipped in Mpumalanga to allow for the research and the reading that you say that you do before coming to a final conclusion?
Okay, I cannot say that I said I have very little knowledge, with all due respect there. I ask, I said, even if I know, I still ask. The people who are surrounding me, I find even if I work in Gauteng, even if I am in Mpumalanga, the judges, they are so welcoming and they are always willing to assist if it becomes necessary. So if you get a complex case, a situation where you do not know how to decide, there's always that support system around you that you can always approach someone and not feel humiliated or embarrassed that you are asking. So what I'm trying to say is that even if I know something, I still ask, just to be sure and certain.
And the second part of my question concerning the resources available?
We've got, these days it's so easy because you can get work, you can get case law from your cell phone. We do not necessarily have a library in Middelburg. Or maybe it is there now and I have not seen it. I am not sure because we're working from home. I always get data. I have all the gadgets that I can use to do my research. I don't really struggle. Even when I was in Gauteng and did things on case lines, it wasn't a problem at all because I have the gadget. The department has provided us with such gadgets to be able to use as resources.
Okay, I think the Chief Justice should listen that the court, I think, are in need of more materials. You don't have access to any of the most recent textbooks?
No, not in my office at the High Court, but in my office at the Magistrates Court, I do.
Thank you very much. Thanks, CJ.
Can I also
Thank you.
add that there's something called the visual library that we use that and we access a lot of case law there. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. I'm sure the JP knows what to do in case of need. JP Mlambo?
Thank you, Chief Justice. My issues were covered by the JP and the Minister in terms of civil work exposure. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Judge President. Thank you very much, Acting Judge Vukeya. Your excuse me.
Thank you very much, Chief Justice, and thank you to the panel.
Thank you.